This one is for all the parents out there. Today we're going to be exploring remote sales as a parent. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Sharni Campbell. Flexibility doesn't really mean that we work less. It just means that we just choose when we want to work, and we choose the hours that work for us, and we still get the work done and we still get the results.
One of the best things about us working remote is also when we want to travel, it's not a question of like, can I get the annual leave or can I take the time off, or is that going to impact our earning potential? We can continue working, and this is similar for a lot of people that we know in this space.
So one of the challenges I'll say here is that when you can work anywhere, it can become this weird little habit, and it's not always a positive habit that you take your work wherever you go.
Yeah, that whole afternoon, I spend every afternoon with Indy just doing whatever we want to do. If we want to watch a movie or go for a walk or go to the park or,
Yeah, we have so much family time, hey?
So much.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Remote Sales Podcast. This one is for all the parents out there. Today we're going to be exploring remote sales as a parent. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Sharni Campbell. How are you, Sharni?
I'm good. It's good to be back. It's the first time in this potty studio for me, so
it's an absolute honour to be. Absolute honour to have you downstairs at our own house, chatting to you across in the chair.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And today, this is very relevant to where we are at the moment. We are currently, we've got a child, and then we've got one on the way. We're currently 18 weeks along the journey for child number 2.
Yeah, so big part of why I've been missing in action on the Remote Sales Podcast for a little while. But yeah, we're 18 weeks on Saturday with baby number 2, and it's good to be back. I mean, this is obviously a very fitting episode to return on, given my current circumstance. You can't really see the little bump under here with the big shirt on today, but yeah, been cooking the new babe away for the last 18 weeks.
You've been working hard and working the porcelain bus as well.
I have, yeah.
You've been pretty sick.
I have. I mean, that's one of the benefits, really. Working from home in the first trimester while you're sick is definitely. I mean, I've never had to go to an office whilst being sick and pregnant, but I cannot imagine how you stay at your desk all day whilst vomiting and just wanting to sleep and curl up in the lounge. But that's a big benefit. I just had the little laptop there, a few vomits, a few touches away on the laptop, and kept the lights on for a few weeks.
Absolutely. So, I mean, today's episode, we want to cover some of the benefits, some of the things that we love about working from home, and the things that we've noticed that really work for us as parents, working from home and also working in a flexible role from home. And then we're going to talk about different scenarios and some of the, the principles of working from home as a parent. And we'll share some stories of some other people that we know in the remote sales space, some of our colleagues, some students we've worked with, and just absolute legend parents out there who are rocking it, bringing home the bacon and being an awesome parent. And then we'll finish off with a couple of learnings, and that'll be it. So let's start with the benefits of remote sales, working from home as a parent. The remote sales world, the space, high ticket, seems to be predominantly promoted by people who are looking to travel and go to Bali, go live in Dubai, go live their 20s
the Dubai
overseas.
Funny. I mean, one of our students who's he's got a gorgeous family. He's actually just moved over to Dubai thanks to remote sales. They've got 3 kids and a brand new little baby girl.
Who is that?
For us.
Oh, for us.
Yeah, for us. They're probably still in Australia at the moment, but I think it'll be next week they head off to their new life in Dubai.
Shout out for us. Well done.
Big shout out to for us. They have a gorgeous family. But typically what you see when you see, I guess, the general kind of promotion that goes on around remote sales and the whole Dubai and Bali is, sitting at fancy restaurants, smoking cigars, nights out, beach clubs, closing deals whilst you're sipping on a cocktail. And yeah, look, I'm sure there are some parents that probably do a bit of that as well in the remote sales space. It's probably less of what we see in our world.
Yeah, that was a few years ago for us. Definitely not while being a parent. And for us now, looking at having the parental duties. Like we've got a full-time nanny, which for some people that might be what they would do in order to kind of make a business work and build a business. We're sort of in a different stage where we're running quite a busy business at the moment, so we get some help here and support. And we don't have parents up here actually. So
we don't have family.
We're on the Gold Coast. We don't have family within definitely a car ride. They're all plane trips away.
They are.
So we're a little bit stranded. So, but what would you say is the number one or a few of the top benefits that you found being a parent but also working from home?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is probably just stuff that you and I take for granted. And it's not until we chat with, friends or family or, a lot of the time it is family that we speak to, and they're talking about, doing daycare pickups and commutes and, even when we had Indy, our daughter, you were working in remote sales. We actually had Indigo at home. We had a beautiful home birth. So Chris had, the normal 2 weeks off during that time. But when you went back to work, you were in the office, which was at home 2 doors down from me. So I was obviously doing most of looking after Indy at that point. There wasn't too much you could do. But certainly for things like, holding Indy for 2 minutes while I quickly run to the bathroom or, holding her while I have a shower or brush my teeth. A lot of the clients that we work with and a lot of businesses in this space, they were born out of a need or a want to create, a bit more of a lifestyle and a bit more of a home-based lifestyle. And so having Indy as a newborn on a Zoom meeting with your team wasn't a totally weird or unprofessional thing to happen. And so that's just kind of the norm for us and has always been the norm for us, but I think it's not for a lot of people. A lot of women will have, 2 weeks with dad at home when you have a new baby, and especially as a mum for the first time, I couldn't even imagine the thought of you after 2 weeks going back and just leaving me for, 8 hours plus commute a day to kind of just Indy and I fend for ourselves, especially with no family around or, we've got amazing friends, but yeah, not having family around, that would have been terrifying. And so you haven't spent a day away from Indigo. There's not a day that you may have gone to, a couple of team building days or conferences here and there, but you've pretty much spent every day of Indy's life with her. And I don't think there'd be many dads that can kind of say that. And mums, I mean, obviously I've been here too, but I think that's a really special thing to acknowledge as a dad. Indigo is going to grow up, having you a huge part of her life. And if she wants a little cuddle or, we have lunch together. So it's all those little things that are just a part of our day-to-day that I think we often take for granted, like going for walks together of a morning and having lunch together.
Going for a walk in the morning after I've had a gym session or we've cooked breakfast. We then have time to then go for the morning walk with the dog, which for most people that time is then spent on a commute, on the way to work, on public transport, on driving to the office.
Yeah, or frantically loading the kids in the car. Like I have such vivid memories of my childhood. My mum's a bit of a stress head, so she might be a bit of an anomaly, but I feel like it's a pretty common thing of, you got to get to work on time, you got to load the kids in the car. I have 3 brothers, so it was always just manic. Everyone like getting in the car, everyone's got to get ready for school, we've got to get to school on time, and mum had places to be, she had to be at work, and it was just, you'd do that. You'd come home for a few hours in the afternoon. If it wasn't daylight savings, it's dark. And then you just do that on repeat 5 days a week. And it was quite stressful. Like even as a kid, I was like, oh, this is a bit of a stressful morning, stressful way to start the day, packing everyone into the car and running around, dropping everyone off.
Yeah, that does not sound fun. And I have similar. I grew up on a farm, and I used to have to catch the bus. When in primary school, I used to have to catch the bus. I was the closest house to the school, but it was this ring road, and the bus would come from the school to me, and then we'd have to go the whole way around. And so it was an hour bus trip just to get to school when the school, I could literally see the school. But similar. So my parents were farmer. Dad was a farmer. Mum was a school teacher at a different school, and it was always quite busy in the morning. So we have we have a pretty stress-free morning because we don't have to spend that time in the commute. I read, and this is something I've quoted a few times, is that the average Australian spends over an hour in traffic a day. And I think that it's quite shocking now to think about you've got an hour commute. And I know for a lot of people, it's a lot more than that. So the benefit of working in remote sales and just working remote in general is just cutting that commute.
Yeah.
Just the extra time that you're going to get to yourself and get to spend with your family. And it means you can do more, you can get more done, but also less stress.
Yeah, I was going to say with the morning routine or, morning kind of schedule for us, often you've already done calls as well by the time we go for our morning walk. Like you've been up, you've been working, you've, sometimes done calls by the time we're going for our morning walk, and Indy and I are kind of up and organised. So, and I know a lot of people who are in the space that we know will do early mornings so that they can, help with the kids in the morning, or they'll do, one of our students and a good friend of ours, Scott, will work mornings, and then his wife is a financial planner. She works afternoons, and so he looks after the kids in the afternoons, and that's their arrangement. And I guess, it just means that Scott can earn great money. He's got the flexibility, and he can also be there for the family and support his wife's career as well, which is super unique to have that flexibility, I think.
Well, that leads us to number 2. The first sort of benefit is the cutting the commute, which for any parent, that is money. That's time in the bank, that's time with your kids, it's moments, it's less stress. The second benefit of getting into remote sales, working remote, is the flexibility that you can have with a role such as this. In many cases, I won't say all of them, some companies, and depending on the company and the industry, it can be a little bit more rigid, but in many cases, you are given a lot more free rein to set your own schedule.
Yeah.
And you can work your own hours.
Yeah, and certainly if you're at the upper end of the skill set, so the more skilled you get, I feel, and you can probably comment on this a little bit more, but I feel the more skilled you are, the more flexibility you can gain. And so you can be a little bit more picky. If you're a top closer and you're, a contractor, you kind of get paid per deal you close, you tend to get a little bit more flexibility in your schedule when that happens. But in saying that, Scott is an appointment setter in a pretty entry-level role, and it's just the nature of the business that he works in. There is a heap of flexibility there in the work. So, yeah.
Yeah, the flexibility for Scott, who has such a unique situation, and some people have a similar situation like this where, partner works certain hours, his wife works those hours, but being able to, initially when he started getting into remote sales, he was wanting to work the US time zone so that he could work like 4 a.m. through to, I think it was like 8, 9, 10 he was looking to work into. And when you have a skill set that allows you to work into, plug into an industry which is global, and there's a global demand for your skills, it just opens up so many different opportunities. We've got another student, Nick Rostevsky, who is a friend of the podcast and complete inspirational story, who's just transitioned out of real estate, always wanted to work on the US time zone when he found out about remote sales, and he now gets up at 1:30 in the morning. He's on calls at 2 a.m. and he is finishing by 10 o'clock in the morning and has the rest of his day.
Yeah.
Yes, he has to go to bed very early. Yes, it's difficult to wake up at that time, but then when you've got the whole day to yourself and to whatever else you want to do with that day, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's little, there's other stories like that. But there's a lot of people that we know. And again, this just feels like commonplace in the industry, where most people who work as a remote salesperson, if they've got kids to pick up from school, they just block out their calendar for that hour to go and pick the kids up from school, bring them home, especially if they're older kids who can kind of look after themselves once they're back. They just don't take calls for that slot. And then, they're back online once they're back home. But, an office job, it'd be pretty uncommon to go, oh, just going to duck out for an hour or two, pick up the kids, and, I'll be back to finish off my day afterwards, or log on from home. I guess you might get a little bit of flexibility like that. But most of the parents that I know, most of the businesses that I've worked with and recruited for, that's just a given. Like they don't even talk about, hey, we're flexible because we let you go and pick your kids up from school. It's just like, oh yeah, whatever. Like just block out your calendar for that time and jump back on afterwards. Everyone does that here.
Let's explore the day-to-day schedule. What would you say has been your schedule since being remote and working not so much as a closer? You're a bit more of a recruiter, so you work as a support to the space, and you now run a training company. So what has been your schedule? And then we can chat about the closing and the set of schedule typically, but what's yours?
Well, let me tell you, it's very different to what my schedule was before. Just to give a bit of context, my schedule before was wake up at 4 a.m, do work for about half an hour before I went to the gym, do gym, like breakfast, straight to the office, and then I'd be at the office until like 8 p.m. most days. Was kind of my schedule from when I started in recruitment to when I was running my business with a kind of office space in person. And I honestly, at that point, I didn't actually ever see myself having kids. We hadn't met at that point as well, so that has obviously changed things. But I was very career driven, I guess you would say. I had my own business at 25, and with that lifestyle, I just thought I want to be successful in my career, but I actually couldn't see how I could ever sustain that career success and have a family as well, which is just totally crazy now to think about, because I'm, obviously tripled, quadrupled. I wouldn't even know what the numbers are, but like the success that we have, which feels like we do with ease and balance and all of those things, is so much more than what the output I had back then. But in terms of my schedule now, to bring it back to the question, obviously I'm pregnant at the moment, so mornings are a bit different. But if I'm not pregnant and I'm healthy and wide awake, it's normally wake up. You're always up at 4, so depending on when I wake up, I'd either come down and train with you. We've got a home gym, which is amazing if you're a parent, because that was something I found really hard, was finding time to go and actually exercise. So a bit of exercise in the morning, and then Indy's normally up. So I spend 2-3 hours with Indy of a morning just playing, making breakfast. We go for our walk. We spend a lot of time together in the morning. Just often we do chat a little bit of business, but mostly it's just time as a family. And then, as you mentioned, we have a full-time nanny. I know a lot of people don't have that or have different kind of childcare arrangements, but she comes every day at 8 a.m. So I do a little bit of a handover with her of Indy. And then I'd go and kind of get myself reset, log on for the day. And normally for me as well, I tend to have like a bit of a break, especially now that I'm pregnant. I'm a little bit tired. So I do have a bit of a break around 1 p.m. most days. I'll put Indy down for her nap. We'll have lunch together. Then I'll put her down for a nap. I'll have a little rest on the lounge. And then afternoons, I find that just my energy levels aren't as great. So I'll kind of do some tidying up of the day, preparing for the next day. And then I'm finished by 3 p.m. Indy and I spend the afternoon together. I get dinner ready for you because you're normally still on calls until late in the evening. And so, yeah, I'll do dinner for the family. The nanny's often helped kind of prepare some things to make me look good with that. But I can we have dinner at about 4:30. Then we might go for another walk or something in the afternoon. And then it's, that whole afternoon. I spend every afternoon with Indy just doing whatever we want to do. If we want to watch a movie or go for a walk or go to the park or,
Yeah, we have so much family time, hey?
So much. Yeah, so much.
Which is important. I think the moments that you mentioned before, it's hard to quantify the real benefits of those. But, you get to see, I think Indy might be sick of me right now because she sees me all the time.
She lets you know too.
She sometimes wants me, and then sometimes
goes,
it's
no,
get out of here.
No, Daddy, no.
Yeah.
But
and it's those moments that matter.
The little moments, yeah. If Indy's sick, like she's got a bit of a runny nose or something like that, normally I guess kids would get sent home from daycare and you couldn't work for the day, but it's fine. She's here. We have the nanny. It's all good. But if she's a bit upset, and she was today, she comes down, we have a cuddle. I'll go up and give her a cuddle in between calls. And yeah, it's just very normal that we're all together.
Let's look at the day of a closer, then the day-to-day of a closer or a setter who is working in as a right salesperson. Or maybe look at a closer first. The typical day of a closer, what does that look like? Normally, for most people, it's a similar setup for us, as us. Up in the morning, most salespeople I know, they train or they do some sort of exercise, whether it's walking or focused gym in the morning. Some have a bit more of a dialed-in routine, morning routine, but when it comes to kids, anything can happen. So sometimes that gets thrown out the window.
Stay agile.
The most important part is the calendar,
Yep.
and being able to stack your calendar and adjust your calendar around your schedule. On specific sales teams that have a lot of structure, it's very common to have a sales team meeting in the morning that might start around 8 or 9 in the morning. And for many salespeople, that's kind of when they'll log on. But for others, if you're working part-time, if you're working a little bit more casually, or if you're a contractor, you may just open up, you have your calendar open for the times that you're available, which could start after lunch.
Yeah.
We've worked with one of our friends and who's been on the podcast, Phil Pitch. When we met Phil, he had just had twins, and that was his first foray into parenting. So he was dealing with twins with his wife, and he was working part-time on closing an agency offer, and then part-time he was working for the education company that I was fractional sales manager for. And so he'd log on about lunchtime, and he'd work about 4 to 5 hours closing those calls. And I knew in the mornings he would just be helping his wife a lot with the twins, because that's a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
And then of an evening time, he'd be finished by 5 p.m., 5:30, and dinner, bath time, bedtime, all of those cool things that he would sort of be there, not have to commute, not have to sort of stay back at work. It was very much you set your own schedule, so it really worked for him. So, and I know that he's they're looking to have more kids, as are we, and I can just see it's as the kids grow, as you have more kids and they've got different demands. You got sport, and we're only talking here about people with early infants and toddlers.
Yeah.
What about for parents who have kids who have sports, or they are going to school and they've got to get picked up from school? What have you seen with the schedules and the routines?
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, the school pickups and drop-offs, I feel like most clients I speak with, and you mentioned the morning meetings. I know I've got a client and they're in the female empowerment space. And so their whole team are females. I'd say probably 80% of them are mothers, and they have a morning meeting. They're quite a structured, well-oiled sort of sales team, but there's a lot of flexibility around that call. Like, you might be in the car dropping the kids to school, just kind of jumping on that call. So, there are businesses like that. I mean, we've got another business who's a tradie business coaching business, and they are a huge company. They've got over 50 staff. They're across 8 countries. They're a big, big company. Same again, like they've got a morning meeting, but they're super flexible with school pickups, drop-offs, those sorts of things. So, yeah, I think it just seems to be, I've come from a corporate background.
In some cases as well, you can log in from the car.
Well, actually, who was it? Scott does that. He takes the boys to gymnastics, and he'll do calls from the car.
From the car,
yeah, while they're in gymnastics of an afternoon. Or, I forgot to mention as well with our daily routine, like you and I, Indy's in bed by 6:30. You and I are normally back on the laptop after that to either do calls or catch up on admin work or whatever it is. So you've got that flexibility to kind of jump on and still be doing dollar productive things from home after, nighttime routine's done, everything's kind of settled back down. So even though I take that couple of hours in the afternoon where I'm not online, I'm still getting stuff done.
And that comes back to flexibility. Flexibility doesn't really mean that we work less. It just means that we just choose when we want to work, and we choose the hours that work for us, and we still get the work done, and we still get the results. But it happens on our time and on schedule.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I couldn't imagine. Yeah, going back into having to work in an office 9 to 5, being stuck in there like a caged animal. That's how I felt for all those years.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time I was that. It was probably in the cops. I couldn't
imagine you.
I think I was in the police. I think I was 18.
To sit still.
Into 18 in the police force, and I still struggled to show up on time and just be a good employee. All right, and let's look at the logistics and home office setup. What do you have to have at home to make it work? I'll say the first thing, you got to have a quiet space with a door that you can lock. And you need to have an arrangement for the kids. So if you've got kids at home, young kids who aren't at school, then if your partner is at home, great. If you've got grandparents who can look after the kids, if you've got childcare arrangements, as you've said, you might not need that lockable door if you've got childcare arrangements. It's just if the kids are at home, you do need to have a separate space. It's helpful. If the kids aren't home, you can set up wherever. You can set your laptop up at the kitchen table, at the, on the dining table, on the couch. You can set it up anywhere and log on. What about travel? You've got travel here. I'm looking at the notes here. So logistics, making sure you stay somewhere with a separate room, conference space. This is when we travel overseas, is it?
Yeah. So I think one of the best things about us working remote is also when we want to travel, it's not a question of like, can I get the annual leave or, can I take the time off, or is that going to impact our earning potential? We can continue working, and this is similar for a lot of people that we know in this space. They can continue earning money while they're traveling. And so, whilst we don't live somewhere like Bali or, we're not traveling 24/7, you and I, as a family, we like to do sort of at least one big overseas trip per year. And so last year it was Europe, and we went as a family over to Europe, and you would take calls in the mornings. You'd be on calls. Yeah, it was the mornings there, the afternoons here. And I think it was obviously incredible to be able to do that and experience that as a family.
It's not always ideal. So here's the thing as well. Like this can be a trap. So one of the challenges I'll say here is that when you can work anywhere, it can become this weird little habit, and it's not always a positive habit that you take your work wherever you go. And I've done that for so many years now, where all right, well, so I might go home to Tassie to see the folks, or I might go over to Bali and I'll go spend a couple of weeks in Bali, or I'll head over to the States. And it's great because what will happen is that I just won't take any leave, or and this is I'm now rewinding back to when I was a closer or sales manager, and it's amazing to be able to do that, to have the flexibility just to get on a plane and go anywhere and still not and have it not impact your income. But when I'm half in, half out, when I'm half in travel, I'm half in seeing my folks and having a good time down in Tassie, then I've got to jump on a few sales calls. It can be frustrating. I mean, not frustrating, but it can kind of kill the vibe.
Yeah.
And I'm not fully focused on work, and then I'm not fully focused at present on the holiday or on the trip. So I don't love doing that now, and so I would recommend in the early days, if you're hustling for cash, take your work wherever you travel. But then,
aim to get to a point where you like Matt Quicks, he books out his travel a year in advance.
He's offline. He plans the holidays and he's away. Yeah, and he's able to do that, and he does that really. And I think for me, just my personality type is not to plan that far ahead.
No, it's not. I mean, you probably don't even know what country we're going to in a month's time.
No, you're right. I have to look that one up.
Just turn up at the airport, darling.
I'll just turn up. I'll just pack my bag the morning off.
If you are traveling and you are working, because it can be really enjoyable, especially if you've got the right time zones. I mean, Europe was great in some ways. We probably needed to spend a little bit more time just holidaying, and that was a bit of a lesson. But realistically, by 12 p.m. lunchtime over there, it was nighttime here. And so, the Aussies were back asleep, we had the afternoons to explore and have beautiful lunches and just have a great time as a family. And you'd worked and contributed in the mornings. And the things that we learnt around that, probably more so for the mums or whoever's the planner in the family, when you're looking to book accommodation, keep in mind that you're going to need a separate space for calls to happen. So whether that's booking a room where you've got, separate rooms and like a little office nook or something like that, or booking an Airbnb rather than a hotel room, or booking a hotel where they've got conference rooms or things like that where you can go and take calls. So I know for you that was really helpful to be able to kind of duck down just into a quiet conference room, or book somewhere that the family can go out for the morning. And so Indy and I would often go and have breakfast. We'd go for a little walk around and just making sure that we had accessibility to kind of cafes and things like that, so we could be out for a couple of hours while Chris did his work. That was really important.
Or do the balcony.
You did the back, but Indy would often see you through the balcony and be quite curious.
Yeah, but at least she couldn't disrupt the work, although the traffic noise in the background wasn't helpful for the meetings that I was on.
Especially in
balcony work can work if you're in a room with your little ones, but not always recommended. All right, well that wraps us up for today's episode, which is remote sales as a parent. Sharni, it's been fantastic to dive deep into this topic. Do you have anything further that you want to leave the viewers and the listeners with?
Not really. I don't think we covered a lot of ground. Must say it's nice to be back on the potty, and as a mum of almost 2 now.
1.5.
I feel really like I'm qualified to discuss this topic. So
You are. You absolutely
I'm
are.
glad.
You absolutely are. So shout out to all the parents out there.
Yeah, shout out to the parents.
And the remote parents, the parents who are doing this remote, because although it is amazing, there is some juggling, with logistics, working with your kids at home and making all of that work, but we wouldn't have it any other way. All right, we'll see you on the next time, or see you next time on the podcast. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time.